In the 1980s, psychologist Tory Higgins developed something called the Self Discrepancy Theory. The idea is simple, but it explains a lot about why modern life can feel so exhausting. Higgins said we do not only carry one version of ourselves, we carry very different versions at the same time. There's the actual self. That's the person you are right now, your real life, your real habits, your real energy, your real body, your real responsibilities, your income, your home, your relationships. This is the person you are today, not the person that you're trying to become. And then there's the ideal self. That is who you wish you were, the version of you who is more successful, more creative, more disciplined, more fit, more organized. And then there's the ought self, the OUGHT. This is the person who is who you believe you should be, who you ought to be. This is the responsible one, the productive one, the one who wakes up early and answers faster, finishes everything on time and makes better choices and saves more money and wastes less time, stays calm, eats better, works harder, and somehow keeps all parts of life under control. That's the ought self. That's who you ought to be. And Higgins' point was that distress, internal distress, often comes from the gap between these different selves. And when your actual self feels far away from your ideal self, you may feel disappointed or frustrated or discouraged. And when your actual self feels far away from your ought self, you may feel anxious, guilty, ashamed, or like you're failing some responsibility you can't quite name. And this is where the optimization culture becomes a problem, constantly trying to optimize your life. It constantly expands both the ideal self and the ought self. There's always a better version of you available. You could wake up earlier, build better habits, make more money, post more stuff on social media, read more books, read 10 pages every day, get healthier, do the 75 hard, become calmer by doing yoga or meditation or breath work. And you can turn your whole life into a system, and you can put it in your calendar. You can have time blocks every 15 minutes so that you're living the most optimized life, getting 1% better every day. And none of that's bad, in and of itself, but the problem begins when improvement becomes the standard for being acceptable. Higgins actually helped to explain why this feels so stressful for us. You're constantly comparing yourself to imaginary versions of the perfect you, the person that you wish you were, the person that you think you should be, and the person the internet says you could become if you just optimize harder. There's actually somebody I follow on Instagram who I love a lot. She's trained with Joan. She started working out like in her mid-70s or whatever, and she went from overweight to incredibly fit, and now she's like an inspiration. And you can watch her journey, but we always look at Joan now versus Joan when she started, when she was overweight, when she was unhappy, when she was bloated, and it's not an insult against her, it's just a reality, I mean, I feel the same way sometimes, but we always look at ourselves and compare ourselves to other people, and this creates a permanent state of not enough yet. So I'm not successful enough yet. I'm not disciplined enough yet. I'm not healed enough yet. I'm not productive yet. I'm not fully myself yet. I'm not my most actualized self. But what if the issue is not that we're behind, that you're behind, or that I'm behind? What if the gap just keeps getting manufactured? What if we just keep getting told that we just have to get better and better every day, that we have to launch a $100 million business overnight, that we have to optimize every single thing in our calendar, everything in our workday, our wake-up schedule, our end-of-day schedule. We have to plan for tomorrow, tonight. Sunday night has to be like the recap for the week, and we have to think of 3 things that we did that we would like to accomplish in the coming week, that goals that we didn't achieve, and if we don't do that, then somehow we're missing the mark, or we're not good enough, and we're never going to accomplish the things that we want in life. So what if that gap just keeps getting manufactured by all the things that we listen to and see and hear? Back to this. So what if the issue is that we're not behind, but what if that gap just keeps getting manufactured? It doesn't mean that goals are bad, and it doesn't mean that we are a failure. It just means we need better questions. Higgins was not saying that we should destroy our ideal self or ignore the ought self. We need both of those in us. The ideal self gives us aspiration, and the ought self gives us responsibility. But distress happens when the actual self is constantly measured against standards that are too far away or too rigid and not really ours. So the work is to ask this question: is this a real value, or is this just pressure? Is this a dream, or is this just comparison? Is this responsibility, or is this shame? The goal is not to become every possible better version of yourself. The goal is to bring your actual life, your real desires, and your real responsibilities into a more honest relationship with who you are.